Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America Trading. Thank you for tuning into our podcast entitled The Secret War on Cash, where we take an in-depth look at some of the changing or evolving factors that are taking shape in our financial markets and our economy. And we do this with my co-host here, Chris Agelastos. Let's bring him into the loop or into the picture. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Doing great, thanks. Keeping busy with these markets.
Oh, that's the truth. There's been a lot of activity in 2025 already.
No joke.
Speaking of a lot of activity, for those tuning in, and for you, Chris, if you hear a lot of construction noise behind me, I apologize in advance. I think every house on this street right now is under some form of construction. So
It's a busy year for
it,
everybody.
it is a busy year. I think the one who's taking the cake for noise right now is the guy redoing his pool. That jackhammer just doesn't want to seem to stop. So hopefully the AirPods or AirBuds or whatever they are will help muffle that out. So all right, well, let's talk about stuff here. Let's talk about economic stuff. And
hmm
as CC puts our first article on, um, this has been actually, I would say so far, this is the leading topic of the year in the markets. The All the to do and all the stir about Fort Knox. And when I say the leading topic, there's a lot of other things that are happening, but it seems to be like it's hard to go on the internet and not find somebody who has one opinion or another, albeit from just the simple financial side of it. And then you take the other extreme, the conspiracy theorist part of it. They're having a run with it. So
Yeah.
right into it here from Fortune magazine. This was published in Yahoo Finance. Repricing U.S. gold reserves would be bullish for the market, signaling the precious metal is not a barbarous relic, analysts say. And what's interesting, Chris, as we've talked about before, I got into the metals business with Swiss America back in 1992. And that, you see that barbarous and more so the relic, that is what the financial markets, Wall Street, you would literally hear them refer to physical gold as a relic.
hmm
And what's interesting about that, I guess it is a relic if it's been around for a long time. It's been, ever since day one, man started pulling this stuff out of the ground. It's been, highly sought after, very valuable. So I guess just by definition, that's what makes it a relic. But I guess real estate's kind of the same thing as well. It's just sitting there and, it's a relic and people own it and buy it, sell it, use it, etc.
hmm
But this is kind of interesting when you get into the math of all of this for a relic, you're and I'm going to let you talk about it here, but you're talking about the gold prices for those tuning in who may not be aware of what's happening. The All the gold in Fort Knox being valued at 1970s pricing, which was $42.22 an ounce. And with what's supposed to be the 261.6 million ounces that are in there, it's about $11 billion. And at today's current price of 29.50, give or take, if they were to reprice that to what the actual price of gold is, it'd be not $11 billion, it would be $750 billion, which would be a market improvement. Now,
Yeah.
with this being said, one thing, and then Chris, I'm going to let you talk about this. What I think is important to note about, quote, this relic known as gold, there's not, let's take, for instance, back in the 1970s, if they took 260, the equivalent of the $11 billion worth of stock or stock certificates and put them in a vault, and now, many years later, what would that be? 55 years later, if you go from 1970, took those certificates out. Most of those companies, by just the sheer numbers, would are not even in business anymore, and therefore
Right.
that wouldn't even be the stock certificates would not be of any value. Those shares, whereas like gold, yes, it is a relic. It just sits there, and it is there when you need it, like we're finding now. And then also, like from a value standpoint, the market kind of takes care of itself. So here's
hmm
my question for you, Chris. The feasibility of this happening, are they going to be able to, revalue it and make this change? And what's the sense or purpose of it if they do, from your estimation?
Yeah. Well, I'm not so sure that they will. They haven't. They haven't in this long. And really they want to downplay the value of gold, right? I mean, in our country, the Federal Reserve, they want us using U.S. dollars. When they came out with paper money, they said it was as good as gold, and you could exchange it for gold. And now they want us to think that it's better than gold and more useful than gold. And so I don't know that they really want to assign an accurate value to it, because it would be good for the market. It would show that they place a high value on it, which I think they do. But again, they don't want us to know. It's the same reason why you call it a relic. It's like calling someone old rather than calling them wise. Gold, like you said, has been around a long time and has been very stable, and has always performed well. And there will be individual stocks here and there that blow it out of the water and perform well, and also a lot that will go down to zero. And gold gives people and central banks in this case stability and something to count on, and that's a good thing. But again, I don't think they're necessarily going to rush to revalue it and give it more hype. They're probably not too thrilled with the fact that President Trump and Elon Musk have been stirring so much up about it, obviously. But now maybe with President Trump in office again, he will be able to apply enough pressure. But I would say it's too early to tell. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do, and I'm kind of waiting anxiously, like everybody else, to see what happens here.
Sure. Well, two more things I think I'd like to add to that, though, Chris, is number one, like again, calling it a barbarous, tough word actually, or a barbarous relic.
Yeah.
Explain central banks and governments have been buying up gold like crazy,
Hmm.
literally all those years from the 70s on. And
Yeah.
so it is how it got kind of categorized as a relic is just interesting, because it is literally what the banks are buying it for, why governments buy it or hold it. It is the cornerstone of a portfolio, if you will. It's that one
Yeah.
thing that there's no debt tied to it. It's not debt encumbered. It literally has a value unto itself. And thirdly, it had, well, there are more things, but my third point here today is the fact that it is an international asset. It is not dependent on a single country or a single currency or a single economy to survive and give it value. It has a value across the board, universally speaking. But the
Right.
second thing is this, there's so much scuttle about this audit that's being proposed by Musk and Trump on Fort Knox.
Hmm.
And what I find interesting about that is that it's a U.S. government, which means the people, theoretically, asset. And why people would be opposed to an audit is absolutely beyond me. Like, this is something to me would almost suggest, why is there not at least a, like, maybe an annual audit on this, or maybe every 2 to 5 years? I mean,
Yeah.
why on earth is there already not an audit system in place? And we know the answer to this, because the government is very reckless and haphazard with what it does with all of its finances, and that's something we can get into on another podcast. But some of the waste that DOG and whatnot have identified so far, I mean, it's
Hmm.
crazy. It's not crazy, it's criminal. The lack of accountability that the government has when it comes to finances. So,
Yeah.
they at the end of the day, I do believe that this is something that is going to become more and more a factor. I don't think this topic is going to go away at this point, because how do you go away without something happening here? And then going into the next article, Trump says he's going to check if somebody stole Fort Knox's 400 billion gold supply. Here's what we know, and
Yeah.
this is coming from Forbes. I mean, if somebody stole, just the fact that that's a question that can be asked, that's a
Right.
problem. Like, this is supposed to be, that was, you remember as a kid growing up that you'd hear it's as safe as Fort Knox.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
with that kind of safety, why is there is too many people who would know something about this that are suggesting that hey, something may be wrong here. How could somebody get in and steal this gold? Do you have any idea, Chris?
No, and well, I would say if anybody did, it's our own officials, and so they wouldn't call it stealing, right? Maybe they repurposed it, maybe they moved it. I mean, I think they know that having it there provides some stability for the American public, believing and trusting in our dollar because we know we have something at least partially behind it. And I'll say, they say that they audit it every year. But what they don't do is show any of the public. So, you have a politician telling you that it's there and that don't worry, we check on it every year and it's there, but we won't show you. And I think the last time they let any public officials, they let some congressmen in 2017, and before that it was in the 70s. So there's been very little transparency, and I think that's the biggest part of the problem. It's um, you know, uh, why would they not shed light on this to, hush the conspiracy theories? It
Right.
goes back to same thing with like the JFK um, assassination and, UFO sightings and stuff like that. And I think,
Chris,
what Elon,
you're gonna turn this into a fringe podcast before you're all said and done.
well, I think the government, their secrecy makes people question um, what they're saying and the
Right.
validity of what they say. And we've learned time and time again that a fair percentage of the time you can't trust or believe what a lot of these politicians say. And so, it's not necessarily that the gold isn't there. I mean, I would say there is probably a very, very good chance that it is. But again, if it is, why would you have a hard time showing that to the American people? And that's why I love how, Elon Musk even said, let's just do a live video walkthrough. We'll go down there and stream it and let everybody see it. And I think that would give everybody a lot of peace of mind to at least know in this one instance, the government isn't lying to us. And we know, Fort Knox accounts for about 60% of the US's gold reserve. So it's the largest single pile of,
If
if
it's
it's there.
there.
if
If
it's
it's
if it's there.
there.
Well, that's the whole thing. And I think, it's kind of exciting because I mean, we've been hearing about, I've only been here about 15 years now, but in all of my time, and I know well into all of your time here, people have been bringing up this question, consistently. Is it really there? And there's even been documentaries on it, showing different testimonies of people saying that they saw, train cars and things being loaded up near Fort Knox and leaving late at night, and the government not announcing what they were
Yeah.
doing. And
Yeah.
so we really don't know. It would be great to hopefully they really do get in there and do some sort of live stream because I think it would calm a lot of people's nerves and just be more transparent. That's what the American people really voted for with Trump, both in his first term and this time. They really loved the idea of him going in there and cleaning house and being transparent with things. And even on the issues you don't agree with him on, he certainly doesn't bite his tongue, right? He's out there telling people what he thinks and how he sees it. And I think people appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. You talk about how what the one of the assurances that they're trying to provide the American public or the world in terms of that gold being there. Just I want you to think about what you said a moment ago. No, no, no. It's all there. Rest assured, because we had some Congress people go in and they all saw it. And let me tell
Right.
you something. If I'm looking for some kind of assurance of what's fact or fiction, the top of my list of who I'd like to listen to is not going to be a congressperson. That's
No.
just me. Number
Yeah.
one. Number two, I'm not even sure. I've heard there are a variety of different types of gold that are in Fort Knox. Okay,
Hmm.
bullion predominantly or supposedly, but in different forms in different fashion. And as you and I both know, and any of the people tuning in who own gold or have owned gold in the past or have looked at gold, even in a bullion form, different forms of bullion have different values. And here is my point.
Right.
How is the average person going to go in there and look at that many million ounces and be able to do a valuation of it, even if they did show
Hmm.
them that? Or like,
Hmm.
if there is something nefarious going on, some skullduggery, if you will, I mean, I would imagine the gold is all just sitting there in probably pens or some kind of, room, caged rooms or something like that.
Right.
Is it inconceivable that the inside of this big wall of gold, or what's underneath it, is just concrete, and then they've got like bars on the outside to make it look like a
Right.
lot of gold? I mean, if
Yeah.
something bad is going on, there are so many things, and to your point, having somebody live streaming there, probably not a bad idea. Probably not a bad
Yeah.
idea at all. So, well, we'll see. Hopefully, I'm for one, I'm in favor of an audit. I would an independent
Well, there's
audit,
no
a
downside. Yeah.
congressperson audit.
Right. What's the downside? It's gonna make the people calling for it happy, and the people that don't care, aren't paying attention, aren't going to care either way. So there really is no downside, and the fact that they've been so against it for this long really just fuels the conspiracy.
Well, not to mention, clearly it's no secret. It's all over the news and every publication known to mankind. The United States of America financially is not in good shape right now. We're on the ropes. I mean, as Trump
Yeah.
said, and we talked about this in an earlier podcast, with everything that's happening with BRICS, it could prove to be detrimental to the US dollar. So here's the thing. People who would be opposed to this, we turn $11 billion into $750 billion with a stroke of a pen, just with a stroke of a pen. And I'm of the
Yeah.
belief every $739 billion helps.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems kind of senseless that this wouldn't be just like an automatic, like, yes, let's do this audit. All right. Well,
Right.
Chris, people should be buying gold. There's no question about it, especially with all that's going on in this crazy world. How do they do that? What do they need to do?
Yeah. Call us to find out more. 1-800-289-2646. Just let us know that you're curious. You're new to this, maybe, or maybe you have a little experience and you want to learn more about how it works. We'll send some materials to you. We have advisors here that'll counsel with you and help you, make sure that it would make sense in your situation, which I think this day and age it does for most people. You can also text us at that number or go to the website, www.swissamerica.com. We have materials there you can review more in summation, and then you can request more detailed reports be emailed or mailed off to you. The key here is just education. Reach out, let us know you want help, and we'll be there for you.
Fantastic. And if you're not tuned in or subscribed to this podcast, please do so. And also follow us on social media by clicking on any of the links that you will see in the description of this podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yep. Take care.